everyone, in this video I'm going to start going over our next connective. We've talked about conditionals, now we're going to start talking about conjunction, and the two things that we can do with those: conjunction, elimination, and adjunction. Let's get into it.
Conjunctions are another kind of connective, just like if-then. Conditional statements are a certain kind of connective. Conjunctions are another distinct kind of connective too. And they function a bit differently, both in terms of how we translate them, and also in terms of the stuff that we can do with them. So let's start first of all with the translating. When we see conjunctions, they're going to be represented for us by the dot. Your book actually uses the ampersand symbol, which I can barely get away with making. You can use that instead if you want to, and I would accept it. Also, in logic textbooks, often you'll see what looks like basically an upside down V. So any one of those you can use. I'm going to go with this one, because I think it's the most distinct. So what do I mean by and here too? Because there's other words that mean and in English. So basically I'll just say this. If I had A, and I can make A stand for anything, and then I had B, okay, we can make B stand for anything. Just for the sake of simplicity, let's say A stands for today is Sunday. And let's say B stands for it is passive voice, but we'll roll with it for here. It's raining. So if I said today is Sunday and it is raining, and I've already established here A stands for today is Sunday and B stands for it's raining. How would I write this? Today is Sunday and it's raining based on this, A dot B. However, instead of the word and here, there's some other words I could use instead, and it would still be represented formally the same way. So let me actually stick this down here. So A dot B in this instance stands for, because of the glossary that I gave, A stands for today is Sunday, B stands for it's raining. Well, hey, where did this A and B come from? I just picked them kind of randomly here. But I'm saying that they stand for this. But what are some other words that mean and? So some synonyms for and. So there are a bunch. I could say yet. I could say but. I could say although. I could say also. I could say, and here's some other spicy ones. I could say moreover. Nonetheless. Some of these are silly. We don't use too often. But I want you to know that they exist. Nevertheless. Additionally. And there may be others too, but I think like two L's in there. All these, we could substitute the word and for any of these, and it would work here. Some of them sound clumsier in English than others. So I could say today is Sunday, yet it is raining. How would I represent that? Same thing, A dot B. Today is Sunday, but it is raining. A dot B. Same thing. Today is Sunday, although it's raining. A dot B. Today is Sunday, also it's raining. A dot B. Today is Sunday, moreover, it is raining. Today is Sunday, nevertheless, it's raining, and so on with these others. Okay, all of these, the dot means that there's a conjunction. So whatever, I think and is the most common one we use. That's why I'm rolling with that one. But we could pick really any of the other these. We could say, oh, these are nevertheless statements. Well, let's go with and because it's the most common. But these, so and, yet, and but are all logically equivalent to one another. They mean the same thing, that the two simple statements are being conjoined. Unlike with if-then, if and the then kind of dictated that whatever follows if has to be on the left side of the arrow. Okay, it has to be, that's called the antecedent. Whatever's on the left side of the arrow is what follows if. With and, it doesn't really work that way. Both sides are equal, like an and statement. Like if I said like, if I work, then I get paid, that's different from saying, if I get paid, then I work. Okay, those are two different statements. They have different meanings. Whereas if I say today is Sunday and it's raining, really that's the same thing as saying it's raining and today is Sunday. I just flipped it, but the meaning doesn't change, okay, in terms of what's going on. Okay, so there's kind of a symmetry of sorts going on there. We'll talk more about what technically what that's called later on in the semester, in terms of being able to flip it around. Okay, technically it's the commutative property if you really want to know. But here, what I want you to know for now is simply that the order kind of doesn't matter. Now I'll say if you see it in a certain order, go ahead and write it out in that kind of order. But there's a sense in which the meaning doesn't really matter, that either side can be flipped. That's not the case with arrows. Okay, you can completely change things but change the meaning of things if you start flipping arrows around. But with dots, that is with and statements, conjunctions, which side comes first in a certain sense doesn't matter. I'm going to say when you're translating, translate it as is in the order that it comes. But the meaning doesn't change when you flip sides. The meaning of conditional statements does change considerably when you flip sides. So let's take a look at a few more things here with conjunctions, because now there's also some new moves that we could do with conjunctions. So far we had one move in our move set, and this is what was going on quiz 2, this is what was going on in the previous sets of videos, and that's the stuff that we could do with arrows. There's really only one thing at this point that I said we can do with arrows, and that rule is called arrow out. And the way that rule works is, it says if you got this situation, you got an arrow, you got the left side of an arrow, then you can get the right side of the arrow by itself. We spent a lot of time practicing that. So what we're going to learn here now are two new moves that we can use, that we can only use with dots, that is with conjunctions. So as a reminder, we're dealing with conjunctions. This stuff hasn't gone away. It only works on arrows, but it hasn't gone away. We're still going to use that, but it's kind of like we need new tools for a different task. So for example, if you're trying to hammer in nails, a hammer's great. But if you're trying to hammer in screws, it's doable, I suppose, there. So maybe this metaphor doesn't work completely, but it's sloppy, right? So what you want to use with screws, a screwdriver. Then you want to figure out, oh, do I need a Phillips? Do I need a flathead? And do I need one of those, hex screwdrivers? What do I need to accomplish this task? So basically, what I'm going to say here about conjunctions, this is the tool set that works with and statements, stuff that you can do with them to get what you want out of it. Okay, remember conjunctions are dots, they're and statements. Okay, and so they work differently from arrows. Here's what we can do with them. So first of all, the first skill that we've got, I'll say this with conjunctions, is this one. I think this is the simplest one. We've got what's called conjunction elimination. Sometimes it's called conjunction annihilation. Cool, that's the technical name for it. What does that mean? Well, the nicest way I can put it, like conjunction elimination, conjunction annihilation, conjunction destruction. The and is going away. What does that look like? Well, and let's take the exact same stuff I was using a moment ago. Let's say A stands for today is Sunday, and let's say B stands for it is raining. Okay, let's say that's the case, we had it just a moment ago. Well, here's the way conjunction elimination, the shorthand form of which is called, I call it and out or dot out. It looks like that. So just like this, technically, this arrow out, there's a technical name for it, modus ponendo ponens, which you'll never need to know that technical name. That's not going to be on a quiz or anything like that. Okay, that's just for free. It's called modus ponens, modus ponendo ponens. Mode that affirms, or the long version, mode that affirms by affirming. This conjunction elimination, and out, or dot out. Why is it called that? Because it kind of gets the dot out. Now, it's not the same thing as arrow out. So like this one, the way this one always works 100% of the time. You got an arrow, you got a left side match. That left side match is like a key that unlocks this and makes this go away so that you can then unlock the consequent, the right side of the arrow by itself. Okay, that's a very special process. It only works with arrows. Okay, there's other moves with arrows too that we'll learn later on. Here's the way conjunction elimination works. It says you've got this. Okay, so here's your assumption. You've got A dot B, or whatever conjunction we've got. We'll say we have that as an assumption. You got this. Conjunction elimination says when you have an and statement, okay, when you got a dot like this, what you can do with it is you can break it down into its two parts. Okay, so in other words, dots you can always slice in half, right down the middle. So you got a dot statement, you can break it into its separate parts, and it's perfectly fine. So this breaks down, now, unlike arrow out, where we can get only one thing out of it. So with arrow out, we're starting with two things, then we get one thing. With conjunction elimination, we actually get two things, or we can get two things. Actually, let me keep those on the outside. We can get this, and we can get this. What two things? Well, you get the two parts, you just get them separately. So in other words, and works this way. It's almost like, imagine you have two Legos. You got them together, what can you do with them? Take them apart, and now you've got them separately, and that's perfectly fine. You can't do that with arrows. Arrows you can't just break apart. They don't work that way. Okay, you break an arrow apart like that, you've done something wrong. Okay, it's an error. Doesn't work that way. Because here's what would happen. If you could just break arrows apart, then you'd have something like, if today is Sunday, then I'm the king of France. And if I just break those apart, now I have I'm the king of France here, and now all of a sudden I'm the king of France. That's nonsense. Whereas if I had something like today is Sunday and it's raining, and I take these apart, they still work by themselves. So that's why that works. So, and that's exactly what we get here. What two things do we get? One thing, and then the other thing. And also when we break it apart, the order doesn't really matter. You know, I could take this pen that I have here apart. So let's say I got these two pieces. I could put this one down first and then this one, or I could put this one down first and then this one. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. Okay, so I could put A and B down, or I could put B and A down. The order does not matter. I would do it in the way that it comes, personally. Okay, that makes the most sense to me. And then what I do is I say here, I log what I did. So how did I get this A by itself? Well, I did this one move. I did and out. Where was the source material? Line 1. Okay, then I need to log this. Well, where did this B come from? I also did and out. Where was the source material? It also came from line 1. So this is different from arrow out as well. Arrow out, it needs two sources in order to work. You got to have an arrow and you got to have a left side match. And you can get the right side out. Okay, that's what you get. With conjunction elimination or and out, you start with an and statement. Basically, you can just break it apart. Like as soon as you see an and, just break it down into its two parts. And then you just say, oh, I did the thing where you break ands apart, and you only have one source. That's what makes this one different. This one only has one source. You can get two things out of it, but it only has one source. What's the one source? The and statement that we had in the first place. You just basically break these pieces apart. They're not glued or fused together. The arrows are. Those arrows, everything in here is inexorably linked. There's no, unless you have the key to unlock it, it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. You can't just take it apart like you can with an and out. So don't mix up arrow outs and and outs. And at this point, that's what I see happen sometimes at this point in the semester is people will say something like, oh, I had A dot B, and then I got A and B, arrow out. No, don't mix it up. Don't mix up your arrow outs with your and outs. They're two completely separate processes. And here also just don't mix up arrows and dots. Make sure you're making them as distinct as possible when you're writing them up. But this is one, I said, of two moves that we've got. Let's take a look at the next one. All right, so let's talk about the next one we've got. But before I do that, a little bit of review. We got these two rules in play. We got the arrow out here that only works with arrows, where if you got an arrow statement, you got a left side match, you can get the right side out. And we also got this one. This is and out. If you got two things put together with a dot, you can just slice them right apart and you get those things separately. That's fine. The next one we're going to talk about is adjunction. I've heard it called conjunctive construction, conjunction construction, building conjunctions. I'm going to call it dot in or and in. And basically, it is simply and out in reverse. Let's take a look at what this one looks like. So this one says this. And let's use the same things I've been using. So we'll say we've got our A's and B's here. We'll say A is, today is Sunday because I've been using that one. And let's say B is, it is raining, as I've been using so far in these examples up to this point. So let's say I had these things separately. Let's say I had, today's Sunday. I've got that. That's an assumption. It's just something that I said. Today's Sunday. And then I said completely separately, oh, it's raining. And I had that as an assumption. So these are the things we've been given. Separately, today's Sunday. It's raining. What can I get with that? Well, I can put them together. Okay, so I can get this. I can just say A dot B. Okay, how did I get that? Well, I put them together with a dot. I stuck an and in between them. And then I just say, okay, where was my source material? Well, I stuck line 1 and line 2 together. That's what I did. Okay, that's all adjunction is. Like I said, it's this backwards. If you can take them apart, you can also put them together. Okay, and I guess you could go back and forth between these. You could take them apart and put them back together. Like Legos, and I'll take my pen here again. If you got two pieces, okay, this is the way adjunction works. I have these two pieces. I can put them together. Here's the back, here's the front. Now, also with adjunction, what I can do is just like I put it together with the back and front one way, I could also, with the pieces, put them together the other way. And that's perfectly fine as well. So let me go ahead and put that I can do that up here. And I'm not going to put it as a line number 4. I'm just going to say we could have an alternate version of line 3. I could put B.A. It's just as fine as the original line 3 that I had here. I'm going to say it's and in. Here I'm just going to say the order a little bit differently. Now, I'm going to say this right here too. As long as you got the right numbers in here, I don't care about the order. The reason why I'm doing it this way, this is my preference. I'm saying, oh, the first thing I put came from line 1, and the second thing I put came from line 2. That's why I'm putting it in that order here. Same thing here. The first thing I put came from line 2, and the second thing I put came from line 1. So that's why I'm putting it that way. But in both cases, I'm using and in. And the meaning doesn't change. If I say today is Sunday and it's raining, and then I say it's raining and today is Sunday, they mean exactly the same thing. Okay? There's no change in the meaning. Whereas, if I took an arrow and turned it around, that does something completely different. That completely changes the meaning of what's going on. You can't do that with arrows. Like if you see an arrow, if you say if this, then that. Oh, I can just flip it around. No, you can't. With and statements, yeah, you can build them however you want. Now, probably if I tell you, say, it's raining and today is Sunday, like I want that, like I'm saying solve for B and A, then you're probably going to want to put it in that order, okay, even though there's a sense in which they're logically equivalent. So these are actually all the rules for conjunction. You've got your and out and in. These are the two rules with conjunctions.
All right, everybody, so that was a little bit of an introduction to the concept of conjunctions and some stuff that we can do with them, namely conjunction, elimination, and adjunction. What I'm going to do in the next video is I'm going to start going over some problems, start with some translations, and then we'll get into doing some proofs with them. See you next time.